What would you do if you had the same nightmare of a deadly car crash over and over, and then one night it actually happened exactly how you dreamed it? It happened to me when I was 17, and I still don't know if it saved me or cursed me. Back in 2015, I was in high school, living in a small rural town. I didn't drive yet, but most of my friends did, so we'd pile into someone's car almost every weekend to hang out or grab food. That year, I started having this recurring dream. In it, I was in the back seat of a car with friends. It was dark, headlights bouncing off country roads. Up ahead, a set of blinding lights suddenly swerved into our lane. There was this screech of tyres, a deafening crash, and the world flipped upside down. I'd always wake up right after, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. The dream happened at least 6 times that year. Always the same details, always the same endings. I tried to laugh it off, told myself it was just stress, but the more it repeated, the more it started to feel like something was warning me. Then one Friday night, my friends and I piled into my buddy Ryan's car. 5 of us in total. We were heading down to a house party about 20 minutes out of town. It was late, the roads were empty, and as we turned down a narrow back road, my stomach dropped. It was the exact road from my dream. The trees, the cracked asphalt, even the faded speed limit sign, all of it was identical. I tried to brush it off, but my chest tightened with dread. I found myself staring at the windshield, waiting. That's when the headlights appeared, blinding, high beams swerving into our lane. My whole body reacted before my brain caught up. I screamed, "Stop! Pull over!" Ryan slammed the brakes. Our tyres streaked as we swerved to the shoulder. The truck barreled past us, horn blaring, and ploughed directly into the car behind us. The sound of metal twisting, glass exploding. It was the exact nightmare, down to every last detail. We jumped out, running to the wreck. The truck had smashed head-on into a small sedan. The driver of the truck was slumped over the wheel, motionless. The sedan was crushed almost flat. 2 of its passengers didn't survive. And the worst part, as I looked into the shattered windscreen of the truck, I saw the driver's face clearly, and I realized I've seen him before. It was in my dream, not just the crash. His face, twisted in fear, exactly how I'd seen it when I woke up sweating. The police arrived. They said the truck driver had likely fallen asleep at the wheel. He died instantly on impact. No drugs, no alcohol, just exhaustion. My friends told me I saved their lives by yelling at Ryan to stop. If we hadn't have pulled over, it would have been us. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't saved anyone. I just lived out the script of my nightmare I've already seen 6 times before. You know, the dream stopped after that night. I never had that crash dream again. But sometimes, I wonder if they'll start back up, showing me something else I can't stop, something worse, because that night it proves something I wish I didn't know. Sometimes nightmares aren't just dreams, sometimes they're previews. What would you do if you kept having nightmares of a man standing at the foot of your bed, and one night you woke up to see he was actually there? That's what happened to me when I was at college, and I'm still not sure if I'll ever really sleep peacefully again. In 2019, I was living in a small off-campus apartment with my roommate. It wasn't fancy, just 2 bedrooms, a shared bathroom, and a living room with old furniture that came with the place. For months, I'd been having the same dream. In it, I'd wake up in my bed, only the room would feel off, darker, heavier, and at the foot of my bed, there'd be a man. He was tall, lanky, almost like his limbs were just too long. His face was always shadowed, like my brain wouldn't let me focus on it. He never moved, he just stood there, watching. I'd jolt awake drenched in sweat, heart pounding. I'd laugh it off the next morning, but deep down, it unsettled me in a way no dream ever had. At first, it was just once every few weeks, but by November, it was happening almost every night. Same man, same place, same silence. I started sleeping with the lamp on, headphones in, anything to block it out. My roommate joked that I was just stressed, but I could see it in her eyes. Even she was starting to get freaked out by how often I mentioned it. Then one night, everything changed. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of breathing. Heavy, ragged breathing. I blinked, groggy, heart racing because I knew the dream was starting again. But as my eyes adjusted, I froze, because I wasn't dreaming. He was there, at the foot of my bed, not a shadowy dream figure this time, a real man, tall, thin, silhouetted in the faint glow of my desk lamp. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could see enough. The outline of his jaw, the slope of his nose, the way his head tilted slightly as he was studying me. My body locked up. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. All I could do was just stare as the air in the room grew colder, and the sound of his breathing filled the silence. After what felt like forever, he leaned forward, slowly, deliberately, until his face was inches from mine, and then he whispered. I don't know what language it was. The words were low, guttural, almost like chanting. I felt the vibration in my chest more than I understood it. Then, just as suddenly, he stood straight, turned, and walked towards the corner of my room. But he didn't leave through the door. He stepped backwards, just into the shadow, and disappeared. I snapped out of paralysis and screamed for my roommate. She came running, flipping the light on, and found me shaking, pointing at the corner. Of course, no one was there. The room was empty. She thought I had another nightmare, until I showed her the marks. On the blanket at the foot of my bed, 2 distant shoe prints, muddy, damp, pressed into the fabric as if someone had been standing there. We tore the apartment apart. The doors were locked, the windows shut, no signs of forced entry, but those prints stayed on the blanket for days, no matter how many times I washed it. I moved out the next semester. My roommate never admitted it, but she saw him too. The week before I left, she told me she woke up one night and saw a tall man standing in her doorway. She said she thought it was me at first, until she realized he was too tall, his arms too long. She blinked and he was gone. I don't know what he was, a dream bleeding into reality, a shadow figure, or something that followed me from place to place. All I know is this: sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, I can still hear that same heavy breathing, and I can't bring myself to look at the foot of my bed. What would you do if you kept dreaming of a strange house as a kid, and then, years later, you walked into a hallway in real life and realized it was the exact same one from your nightmare? That's what happened to me in 2020, and the worst part is, I don't think I ever really left that hallway. I've had vivid dreams since I was little, the kind where you'll wake up sweating because they feel too real. One dream in particular haunted me from when I was about 8 years old. In it, I'd wander through a house I didn't recognize. It was old, with endless narrow hallways and peeling wallpaper. The air always felt damp, and there was this faint, flickering light bulb somewhere in the distance. I never saw anyone inside, except for one figure, A woman. She always stood at the end of one hallway, pale, smiling. I'd get closer, but no matter how far I walked, I never reached her. I'd always wake up before I did. The dream stopped when I was about 12. I never thought much about it again, until years later. In 2020, I was working late shifts and often did Walmart runs at odd hours. One night around 1 AM, I was heading to the back to find a staff member to check the stock room. I accidentally walked down one of the employee-only hallways near the back, and my stomach dropped. It was the hallway from my dream. Same narrow shape, same faded wallpaper, same flickering light at the end. Every detail was exact, right down to the damp, heavy air. I froze, gripping my cart so hard my knuckles ached. I told myself I was just imagining things, coincidence, a trick of memory. But then I saw her, at the end of the hallway, the woman from my dream. Same pale skin, same smile, standing perfectly still, hands clasped in front of her like she'd been waiting for me. I blinked, shook my head, looked again. She was still there. And this time, she tilted her head, like she finally noticed me. I turned to leave, but the hallway behind me was gone. The door I'd come through wasn't there anymore, just more hallway. I tried running, but the lights kept flickering, the wall stretching longer, like the whole building was twisting. My footsteps echoed too loud, like the sound didn't belong to me, and no matter which way I turned, she was always at the far end, smiling, until, suddenly, she wasn't far anymore. She was inches from my face. Her skin was grey and cold, her teeth were too many, jagged, and her eyes rolled back into her head as she whispered, "You made it." I must have blacked out, because the next thing I knew, an employee was shaking me awake in the stockroom. My cart was gone, my phone said I'd lost nearly an hour. When I stumbled outside, I realised something that made my blood run cold. My shoes were soaked, not just damp, wet, like I walked through a flooded basement. But it hadn't rained in days, and the floors in the store were bone dry. That smell from my dream, mildew and rot, it clung to me all night. I've never gone back to Walmart, I just can't. But here's the part that really scares me. The dreams are back, only now I don't wake up before I reach her, and every time she gets a little closer.